The moment I stepped into the boardroom, I felt it in my bones. Something was off. The energy shifted, like the air had changed temperature, like the walls were suddenly breathing. Whispers surrounded me. Quick glances passed between coworkers like they knew something I didn't. I clutched the folder against my chest, trying to look composed, but my pulse was already racing. Then the door opened, and everything stopped. She walked in like she owned the air we were breathing. Cold, beautiful, untouchable. But I knew her, knew every curve of that face, every flicker of emotion behind those carefully guarded eyes. 2 years had passed, and yet when our eyes met, it felt like no time had passed at all. The new CEO. My new boss. Elena Hart. My ex. The woman who disappeared from my life without a word, leaving behind shattered promises, nights soaked in silence, and a version of me I had to rebuild from the ashes. Now she stood in front of me in a tailored black suit that hugged her body like a secret. Her hair was darker than I remembered, pulled back in a sleek bun, but her mouth, that mouth was the same. Sharp, hypnotizing, dangerous. "Good morning, everyone," she said, her voice a razor wrapped in velvet. "Let's begin." And just like that, the meeting started, and I was drowning in a storm of emotions I had buried so deep I thought they'd died. I couldn't breathe, couldn't focus. Every time she spoke, I felt her voice slide under my skin, scratching at memories I'd forced myself to forget. Her gaze swept the room with cold precision. Until it landed on me. It lingered, just a second too long. My breath caught in my throat. And I knew. She recognized me. Of course she did. She just wasn't showing it. And that burned. When the meeting ended, people started filing out. I was halfway out the door when I heard her voice again. "Olivia." I froze. Slowly, I turned around. She was still seated, one leg crossed over the other, fingers resting on her chin like a queen deciding the fate of her subject. "Stay a moment," she said. The last person left the room, and the silence between us became unbearable. I stood there, trying to find the strength to speak, to demand an explanation, to pretend I didn't care. "It's been a long time," she finally said, voice low. Calm. Measured. Like she hadn't vanished from my life without a trace. Like she hadn't ripped me apart. "What do you want, Elena?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Her eyes flickered. "I want to talk. Privately. My office. Now." I should have said no. I should have walked away. But my legs moved before my brain could stop them. Her office was just as cold and elegant as she was. Glass walls. Minimalist decor. The skyline of the city glowing behind her desk. She closed the door. Locked it. The sound echoed inside me like a threat. Or a promise. "Why am I here?" I asked. She leaned against her desk, arms crossed. "Because I wanted to see if you still hate me." "You left," I said, my voice shaking now. "You didn't even say goodbye." "I had reasons." "Bullshit." She took a step toward me. I couldn't explain back then. And maybe I still can't. But I never stopped thinking about you. I wanted to scream. To cry. To kiss her. My body was betraying me, every nerve on fire just from being near her again. "Why now?" I whispered. "Why come back into my life like this?" "Because I couldn't stay away," she said. Another step. We were inches apart now. "And because you're still the only thing that ever made me feel real." I hated her. I wanted her. I was falling all over again. "This is a mistake," I whispered. "Maybe," she said. "But you're still here." And I was. I hadn't moved. I hadn't run. Her hand reached up, brushed a strand of hair behind my ear. The heat of her touch spread through me like wildfire. And then she said it. "Stay. Tonight. Here. I need to talk to you." My heart thudded against my ribs. Why? Because I can't do this whole thing, without knowing where we stand. "We don't stand anywhere, Elena," I said, but my voice cracked in the middle. Her eyes softened, just a flicker. "Please, Olivia." The word I never expected to hear from her. A plea. I should have said no, but instead I nodded. Once. Slowly. She stepped back like she needed distance or she'd break. 8 o'clock. My office. Don't be late. She opened the door and let me walk out. And as I stepped back into the hallway, heart pounding, hands trembling, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't over her. Not even close. I spent the rest of the day pretending to function. Pretending to care about spreadsheets, emails, client calls. But my mind was stuck in her office, in the echo of her voice saying, "Please, Olivia." Like it meant something. Like it hadn't taken her 2 years to say it. I'd spent so long hating her, or at least telling myself I did, that I forgot what it felt like to ache like this. The kind of ache that starts in your chest but spreads everywhere. Memories crawling out of their graves. Whispered I love yous that still haunted my skin. The way she used to touch me like she was trying to memorize me. Why now? Why reappear like this? Why ask me to stay the night in her office like it meant nothing, like it was just another meeting? Except it wasn't. We both knew that. By 6, I was pacing. By 7, I was staring at the clock, heart beating louder than the ticking. By 7:50, I was standing in front of her door. By 8, I knocked. "Come in," came her voice, low and steady. I opened the door and stepped inside, unsure of what I was doing, or what the hell I expected to happen. She was behind her desk, standing this time. No jacket. Sleeves rolled up. Hair slightly undone, like maybe she'd been pacing too. She looked at me like I was a storm she'd been bracing for. "You came," she said softly. "You asked," I replied, trying to keep the tremble out of my voice. She motioned for me to sit. I didn't. "This isn't a performance review, Elena. Say what you need to say." Her lips parted like she was about to argue, then closed again. She nodded slowly. "You're right." A pause. Then, "I never wanted to leave you. I need you to believe that." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "And yet you did. No warning. No explanation. Just vanished. I was protecting you." "From what?" I snapped. "From loving you?" That hit her. Her jaw tensed, her eyes dropped for the first time. "From what I was going through," she said. "From what I was about to become." "And what's that? A CEO?" I asked cold. "You think power gives you the right to rewrite the past?" "No," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But maybe it gives me the chance to finally face it." I hated how my chest clenched at that. Hated how a part of me still wanted to believe there was something redeemable in her silence. "You don't get to come back into my life and act like you still know me." "I don't," she said, stepping out from behind her desk. "I don't know who you are anymore, but I want to." I shook my head, stepping back. "This is insane." "Maybe," she said again, "but so was what we had. And it was real, wasn't it?" "Don't," I warned, my voice breaking. "Don't use our past like it means something now." "It means everything now," she said, her tone suddenly sharper. "You think I haven't thought about you every single day? You think I haven't hated myself for walking away? Then why did you?" I demanded. "Why couldn't you just tell me what was happening?" She looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time I saw it, the crack in her armor. The pain she had tried so hard to bury. "Because I was sick," she whispered. The words hung in the air like a grenade waiting to explode. "What?" "I was sick," she repeated. "I got a diagnosis. Something rare. I didn't know how bad it was going to get. And I couldn't drag you into it. I couldn't make you watch me fall apart." My stomach dropped. My body went cold. You had cancer?" She nodded once. "Autoimmune. Aggressive. I went through hell. Alone. Because I thought it was better that way. Because I thought if I cut everything off, it would hurt less." I sank into the chair without meaning to. My knees had given out. "Jesus, Selena. I survived," she said. "But not without losing everything. Including you." I was silent. My brain was screaming. My heart was breaking. "You should have told me." "I know. I would have stayed." "I know that too. That's why I didn't let you." She was close to me now. Not touching, but close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off her body. "And now?" I asked. "Why tell me now?" "Because I'm not sick anymore. But I'm still empty. And I think the only thing that ever made me feel whole was you." That was it. The part of me that had been holding back crumbled. I stood, face inches from hers. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said. "I don't know if I trust you." "Then don't," she said, eyes burning into mine. "But stay tonight anyway. Not for closure. Just stay." The silence stretched between us. My heart beat so hard I thought it would break my ribs. And then, with a breath I didn't know I was holding, I said, "Okay." Her hand brushed mine. Just a touch. A spark. A beginning. Again. The office felt different once the others had gone. The building was mostly dark, just a few lights humming in distant hallways. The world outside the glass walls shimmered with the soft glow of the city at night, but in here, it was quiet, still, suffocating in a way that made every second stretch longer than it should. Elena stood across from me, her posture uncertain for the first time. Gone was the sharp, commanding CEO I had seen in the boardroom that morning. Now, she looked like the woman I used to know, or maybe the version of her I had only seen in the dark, between whispered confessions and stolen kisses. She sat on the edge of her desk, her hand running slowly over the surface like she needed to anchor herself to something. I leaned against the armchair, arms crossed, doing everything I could to keep my breathing steady. "Thank you for staying," she said, breaking the silence. "Don't thank me yet," I replied. "I'm still trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing here." She nodded slowly. "That makes two of us." I hated how her voice softened like that, low, almost reverent, like she was speaking into something sacred. I hated how much I wanted to close the distance between us. "I keep thinking about the night we ended," I said quietly, my voice coming out more fragile than I wanted. "I remember lying in bed and staring at the ceiling for hours, waiting for a message, a call, something. But there was nothing, just silence." Her expression shattered. I saw it. The guilt, the pain, the regret. "I would have given anything to call you," she said. "But I couldn't. I was terrified. And I didn't want you to watch me fall apart. You didn't even give me the choice." "I know." She stood up then, slowly, like she wasn't sure if she should come closer. I didn't move. "I thought I was dying," she said. "And when you think everything is ending, you start pushing away what matters most. It's twisted, but it's how I survived it. By pretending I didn't exist?" I shot back. "No," she said, her voice trembling. "By remembering you every single day and using that memory to get through the worst of it." I didn't expect that answer. I didn't know what to do with it. She took a step closer. "You are the one thing that stayed with me, even when my body stopped cooperating. I'd wake up from the hospital bed and see your face in my mind. That's how deep you are in me." My throat closed. I looked away, blinking hard. "Stop saying things like that." "Why?" she asked. "Because they're true? Because they still hurt." Her face softened. "Do you want me to stop?" "I don't know," I whispered. "I don't know anything anymore." She was standing right in front of me now, inches away. Her hand lifted, slow and hesitant, and for a second I thought she would touch me. But she didn't. Her fingers hovered near my cheek, suspended in the air like a held breath. I could feel the heat of her skin without contact, and it drove me insane. "You were always the bravest person I knew," she said. "I don't feel brave right now." "You are. Just being here proves that." Her fingers finally brushed my skin, a ghost of a touch, so gentle it made me tremble. I closed my eyes. Just for a second. Just to feel. Love what you've seen so far, and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. The warmth of her hand on my face sent a wave of memories crashing into me. Late nights in bed, her mouth on my skin, her hands learning every inch of me like a language she couldn't get enough of. I opened my eyes, and she was watching me with that look, the one that used to make me melt, the one that said you're mine, even if you don't want to be. Her thumb traced the edge of my jaw. I missed you so much, she breathed. My hand caught hers. Not harsh, but firm. Don't. She froze. Olivia, I can't do this if it's just about what we used to be. I need more than memories. I need truth. I need all of it. She nodded slowly, her eyes locked on mine. You'll get it. I promise. I let go of her hand, took a breath, then start talking. No more half answers. What happened after you left? She hesitated, then walked to the window, arms crossed as she stared out into the night. I got worse before I got better. The treatments were brutal. I lost weight, I lost strength. I was alone in a city I didn't know, in a clinic that didn't even speak my language. I signed a contract with a startup in Europe because they offered me immediate medical coverage. That's how I survived. I worked while I healed. I built something out of the wreckage, and eventually they made me CEO. And you never thought of calling me once you were better? She turned around. Every day. But every time I picked up the phone, I'd freeze. What if you'd moved on? What if I was just a scar to you now? You didn't even let me decide. No. I didn't. And I regret it. Silence again. Heavy. Broken only by the soft hum of the city. Then she added, but I'm here now. And I'm not running again. I studied her for a long time. We're not just going to fall back into whatever this is. I don't want that, she said. I want something better. Something honest. You'll have to earn that, I said, voice steady. I intend to. We stood there, two broken things trying to find the shape of something whole. And for the first time since she walked back into my life, I believed she might mean it. The days that followed felt like walking across a minefield, every step calculated, every glance a risk. Elena had returned to the role of CEO with perfect ease, commanding rooms with the same icy elegance she always possessed. But now I saw everything behind that mask. I saw the flickers of softness that escaped when no one else was looking, the glances that lasted just a breath too long, the messages she never said out loud but delivered in silence. I tried to focus on numbers, reports, clients. I tried to bury myself in tasks that required logic, routine, control. But she was always there. In the elevator, in the hallway, in the conference room where she sat across from me and made my heartbeat echo in my ears. Then the note started. Small, handwritten, left on my desk without a sound. You looked beautiful in that navy dress. I saw you smiling during the team briefing. I haven't seen that smile in a long time. You used to write notes like this to me. I still have them. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to burn them. Another part folded each one carefully and slipped it into the back of my notebook like a secret I wasn't ready to let go of. She didn't try to force anything. Not again. She was always respectful now. Careful. But it was in the way she stood a little too close when we spoke. The way her voice dropped when she said my name. The way her eyes lingered on my mouth when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I hated how much I noticed. Hated how I started noticing everything. I was falling into the gravity of her again. And it terrified me. One night, after a late meeting that ran long, I was heading toward the elevator alone, just wanting to breathe. I stepped inside, pressed the button, and the doors were halfway closed when a hand stopped them. It was her. Of course it was her. Going down? She asked, stepping in without waiting for an answer. The doors shut behind her, sealing us inside that small, too quiet space. I could feel the air change. We stood in silence, shoulder to shoulder, the air thick with everything unsaid. Then the elevator stopped. Lights flickered. We jolted to a halt. I pressed the emergency button, annoyed. Seriously? I muttered. Elena just laughed softly. Guess the universe really wants us to talk. I turned to her. We've talked. Not really, she said. Not about what matters. I crossed my arms, defensive. Like what? She leaned against the wall, eyes on me. Like the way your hands shake when I get too close. Like the way you still look at me when you think I'm not looking. Like the fact that no one else ever made you feel the way I did. You're arrogant, I said, but my voice lacked strength. I'm not wrong, though. You hurt me. I know. You destroyed me. I know that too. I took a step toward her without thinking, anger bubbling under the surface of my chest. You don't get to come back into my life and act like we're circling some fairy tale ending. I'm not asking for an ending, she said. I'm asking for a beginning. A real one. You think I can just forget what you did? No, she said, her voice low. I'm hoping you'll remember who we were before everything broke. My breath caught. Her eyes didn't leave mine. I never stopped loving you, she said. Even when I wanted to. Even when I thought I was dying. The silence between us stretched, thick with tension. My body remembered her too well. The way she smelled, the rhythm of her voice, the way her presence could undo me with a glance. Don't say that, I whispered. Why not? Because it makes it harder to hate you. Do you still hate me? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She stepped closer. Slowly. Her fingers brushed my wrist. My skin burned. Olivia, she said, my name a confession in her mouth. I pulled away, gently but firmly. Don't touch me, I said, but there was no venom, just fear, sadness, longing. She stepped back immediately, hands at her sides. Okay, I won't. Not until you want me to. The elevator lights returned. The system buzzed back to life. And the car began moving again, slow and steady. When the doors opened, I walked out without a word. But just before I turned the corner, I looked back. She hadn't moved. She stood there, watching me like I was her last hope. And maybe, just maybe, I was. The elevator incident left a mark. Not a bruise, not a scar, but something invisible and persistent, a pressure behind my ribs that followed me everywhere I went. I hated that she'd said the words I was trying not to need. I hated how she didn't push after I told her not to. I hated that it made me want her more. For days, I stayed quiet. Professional. I responded to emails, attended meetings, avoided being alone with her. But somehow, she was always there, not forcefully, not intrusively. Just present. Calm. Waiting. Like she knew I wasn't ready, and she was willing to wait until I was. That made it worse. I kept catching myself remembering things I didn't want to remember. The sound of her laughter when she let her guard down. The way she used to pull me closer in her sleep. The way she always looked at me like I was more than the world deserved. It was maddening. I needed space, but I couldn't breathe without her taking it up. Then came the email. A short, 2-day trip to Seattle for a high-priority pitch. She needed someone from our department to go. She asked for me. It was business. On paper. But we both knew better. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes before I typed a simple response. Confirmed. I'll join. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was weakness. Maybe it was the look in her eyes the night the elevator stalled. That look of restraint, of hunger buried under guilt. Whatever it was, I found myself boarding a plane next to her 2 days later, both of us dressed in neutral tones, pretending this was just another assignment. The flight was quiet. She didn't speak unless necessary. But her presence burned beside me, every inch of her, every breath, every movement. I could feel her trying not to look at me. I could feel her wanting to. At the hotel, our rooms were side by side. 2 doors. 2 heartbeats, one right next to the other. After the pitch, a success, of course, because she knew how to take control of her room, we had dinner with the client. Polite conversation, handshakes, smiles that meant nothing. But later, when we returned to the hotel and stood in the hallway in front of our rooms, something shifted. She looked at me like she had something to say, but didn't know if she was allowed. I waited. And then finally she said it. Can we talk? I glanced at the door to my room, hesitating. Please, she added. That word again. Soft. Sincere. I nodded. Her suite was larger, more elegant. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed a city asleep beneath us. She offered me a drink. I declined. She poured herself one, anyway, whiskey neat. Classic Elena. She didn't sit. Neither did I. This isn't a trick, she said after a moment. I'm not trying to manipulate you. I asked for this trip because I wanted to prove that I can be near you without crossing the line. I leaned against the counter, arms folded. So what is this then? A test?
No.
A beginning? Or an attempt at one? I exhaled slowly. You can't expect everything to fall back into place. I'm not the same person you left behind. I know, she said. And I'm not asking you to be. I just want to know the version of you that survived me. That hit too deep. I didn't answer. She stepped closer, slow and careful. I don't want to fix what we had. I want to build something new, with whatever you're willing to give. I don't know if I have anything left to give you. Then I'll take nothing, she said, and wait until you do. I turned away, walking toward the window. You make it sound so easy. It's not. It's terrifying. I looked at her over my shoulder. Then why do it? Because losing you once was enough. I won't survive it a second time. I closed my eyes. The ache in my chest was unbearable. When I turned back around, she was closer again, but not touching. Never touching. If I let you in, I said quietly, there can't be any more silence. No more disappearing. No more games. I swear, she said. I'll never leave again. Not without a fight. And you won't touch me until I ask. Her throat worked as she swallowed. I won't. I took a slow step forward. And if I never ask, then I'll stay exactly where I am. As long as I'm near you, I'll be okay. That was when I knew she meant it. This wasn't seduction. This wasn't a power move. This was Elena, stripped of everything except the truth. I sat down on the edge of the bed, looking at the floor. She didn't move. Just waited. I used to imagine you coming back, I said, voice low. I'd dream about what I'd say. I was angry. So angry. But I also wanted this. A chance to look at you and not fall apart. And now, she asked. I met her eyes. Now I'm not sure which part of me is stronger. Then I'll wait, she whispered, for the part that needs me. And I believed her. I hated how much I believed her. But maybe, just maybe, that part of me wasn't as far away as I thought. The morning after Seattle, I woke with a heaviness I couldn't name. There hadn't been a kiss. There hadn't been a touch, not really. Just words. Just promises. But somehow, it had undone me more than any night we'd spent tangled together years ago. Elena had kept her word. She didn't reach for me. Didn't try to cross that invisible line I'd drawn. She just stood there in her hotel suite, offering me honesty, like a gift wrapped in trembling hands. And that scared me more than desire ever could. On the flight back, we sat side by side again, not close, not speaking much, but there was something unspoken between us now. A current, a pulse. I caught her watching me once, as I looked out the window, and when I turned to meet her eyes, she didn't look away. She smiled. Not the confident CEO smile she gave to board members and investors. This one was small, quiet,
Real.
I looked away first, but my fingers curled slightly in my lap, as if remembering what hers felt like resting there. The next few days passed in a fog of confusion. I went to work. I tried to focus. But everything felt louder now. The echo of her voice when she called my name in meetings, the way her footsteps stopped a little longer outside my office door before continuing on. One night, I stayed late, buried in reports I wasn't really reading. I just needed quiet. Or maybe I needed noise that wasn't her. Around 10, I heard a sound behind me. I turned and there she was. Elena. Still in her office clothes, heels off, barefoot on the cold tile. Her hair was down, slightly messy, like she'd run her hands through it too many times. Didn't expect anyone else here, I said, closing the file in front of me. Same, she replied, leaning against the doorframe. But I couldn't sleep. Trouble in CEO paradise? I meant it as a joke, but she didn't laugh. Her gaze dropped. Sometimes I think I built all of this just to prove I didn't need anyone. And now that I have it, I'm lonelier than I've ever been. That hit harder than I expected. I gestured to the chair across from mine. Sit.
She did.
We sat in silence for a moment, the glow of the city outside the windows casting long shadows between us. Do you ever think about what it would have been like, she asked suddenly, if we'd stayed together? I nodded slowly. All the time. Me too. She hesitated. But then I remind myself we can't go back. No, I agreed. We can't. So what do we do? She asked. What happens now? I didn't have an answer. I looked at her, really looked, and I saw it. The exhaustion beneath the elegance. The weight of years lived apart, full of regret and silence, and what-ifs. You said you wanted something new, I reminded her. That means we start from here. From this version of us. Not who we were before. And what version is that? Two people trying not to make the same mistakes. She smiled. It was tired, but genuine. I don't know if I'm any better at love now than I was before. Then maybe we figure it out together. Her eyes met mine, something fragile flickering behind them. You really think we could have something again? I paused, choosing the words carefully. I think there's something here. Still. And I'm tired of pretending I don't feel it. A breath caught in her throat. Even after everything I did? Especially because of it. I saw the worst of you, Elena. And I'm still sitting here. That silenced her. Her fingers fidgeted slightly in her lap, a small, nervous habit I hadn't seen in years. I reached out. Slowly.
Gently.
My hand brushed hers. She stilled. And then, cautiously, she turned her palm to meet mine. Our fingers didn't intertwine. We didn't clutch. Just touched.
Skin to skin. Warm. Real.
She looked down at our hands, then back up at me. I'm scared, she whispered. Good, I said. That means it matters. She let out a shaky breath. You make me feel like I'm still capable of being good. You are, I said softly. But you have to let yourself believe it. Then something shifted. She stood up, walked around the desk, came to stand in front of me, not close enough to touch, but close enough that I could feel the pull. I stood too. For a second, we just breathed the same air. No words, just heat and memory and something dangerously close to longing. Her forehead came to rest gently against mine. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just that. A silent surrender. I closed my eyes.
So, did she?
Her hand was still in mine, still trembling. But I didn't let go. And neither did she. The quiet that followed was different this time. It wasn't cold, or awkward, or filled with hesitation. It was soft, familiar, like a silence that wrapped itself around us gently, not one that choked. After the night in the office, the touch of her hand, the press of her forehead against mine, something shifted. Not everything, not yet, but enough. Enough that she texted me later that night. Thank you for staying. I didn't answer right away, but I smiled. And a few hours later, I wrote back, I'm not running. Not yet. That small exchange opened a door. Over the next few days, we started messaging more, not about work, but about everything else. The kind of things that filled the spaces between us before we ever said, I love you years ago. She told me about the book she kept reading but never finished. I told her about the stupid TV show I got addicted to during quarantine. She sent me a picture of a coffee she made herself with a failed foam heart. I sent her a voice note of me laughing too hard at a meme. We were relearning each other, slowly, carefully. And I liked who she was now, this version of her that didn't always have to be perfect, who let herself say things like I miss you without needing to control the outcome. And I liked who I was around her.
Softer.
Realer. Like maybe I wasn't broken beyond repair. We hadn't kissed. We hadn't crossed that line. But the space between us was getting thinner by the day. Until it tore. It started with whispers. A glance in the break room that lingered too long. A conversation that paused when someone else walked in. Then someone from HR mentioned something to my manager. A rumor. About Elena. About a former relationship that went silent when she moved overseas. About the inappropriate nature of it. About how no one ever confirmed who the other woman was. I felt my blood turn to ice. I knew what this was. I'd seen it before, the way women like Elena, women in power, were dissected, judged, punished differently. But now it wasn't just about her.
It was about me.
At first, I tried to ignore it. to pretend it would fade.
But then I saw the way people looked at me.
The way conversations stopped too fast when I entered a room. The way one of the interns whispered something to another, then quickly looked away. I felt 16 again. I felt 17, 20, 24, every version of myself that ever had to hide who she loved. I stormed into her office after hours, heart racing, shame burning in my throat. She was standing by the window, wine glass in hand, reading a contract. She turned when she saw me. Liv, just that. My name. But it broke something. Did you know? I asked. About the rumors? Her jaw tensed. Yes. And you didn't think to tell me? I was trying to contain it, she said. PR is handling it. There's no name attached. No one knows it was you. But they suspect. They talk. They look. I know, she said softly. And I'm sorry. I looked at her, furious and terrified and exposed. This is why I was scared. You come back into my life, and suddenly I'm the story again. You're not, she said, stepping forward. I won't let them turn you into that. You can't stop them. Maybe not. But I'll stand in front of you if I have to. That caught me off guard. Her voice didn't shake. She meant it. You'd go public? I asked, stunned. If it protected you? Yes. That could destroy your reputation. Then let it burn, she said. I've rebuilt myself before. I'll do it again. But I'm not losing you. My chest ached. I wanted to believe her. God, I almost did. You say that now, I whispered. But what about in a week? A month? When things get worse? When they dig deeper? Then we face it together. No, I said. You've had years to become someone stronger. I'm still trying to remember who I am without you. Silence.
Thick.
Brutal. She looked like she wanted to reach for me. But she didn't. So, what do you want me to do? Nothing, I said. Just give me space. Please. Her face fell. But she nodded. As much as you need. I turned to leave. My hand paused on the door. I'm not saying this is over, I said. But I can't fall again if I'm not standing on my own first. She closed her eyes, like the words physically hurt. I understand. I walked out before I could take them back. And in the elevator, alone, I realized my hands were shaking again. Just like before. But this time, it wasn't from fear of her. It was from the fear of how much I still wanted her. Even now. Even after everything. Time stretches differently when you're trying not to miss someone. It moves like molasses, slow, sticky, unbearable. The days since I'd asked for space blurred into each other. I went to work, came home, stared at blank walls, or fell asleep with the TV humming nonsense in the background. I told myself I was doing what I needed, that I was protecting myself. But deep down, I knew the truth. I missed her, in ways that made no sense. I missed the sound of her voice down the hall, the curve of her name in someone else's sentence, the steady silence she gave me when I needed it most. And the worst part? She hadn't done a thing. She'd respected the space I'd asked for. No texts. No emails. No knocks on my door. Just absence. Clean and precise.
It gutted me.
Every time I passed her office and didn't look in, I felt it. Every time her name showed up on a meeting agenda and my pulse kicked up, I felt it. Every time I got a coffee and remembered how she took hers, strong, no sugar, I felt it. I was haunted, not by her presence, but by the way she'd honored my request so completely. She was giving me exactly what I said I wanted. And it made me realize how badly I wanted the opposite. I waited a week before I cracked. I sat at my desk long after everyone else had gone, staring at my screen with that familiar ache in my chest. Then slowly I opened a blank email.
Subject: Hey.
Message: Can we talk? Not about work. I hovered over send for 5 full minutes. Then I hit it, and hated myself for how quickly I stared at the screen, waiting for a reply. It came 10 minutes later. Of course. You name the place. I picked a quiet cafe tucked between old bookstores on the east side. Neutral territory. Cozy, but not intimate. A place where the air didn't carry history. I arrived first. Ordered chamomile tea I wouldn't drink. My hands wouldn't stop fidgeting. She walked in 5 minutes late, which was early for Elena. She looked tired. And too beautiful. Dressed in black slacks, a deep green blouse that made her eyes sharper, her hair down in soft waves that framed a face I hadn't stopped thinking about. "Hi," she said softly as she sat across from me. "Hi. Thanks for reaching out." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I wasn't sure you'd come. I told you I'd be wherever you needed me to be." Her voice was low, calm, but I saw her fingers curling slightly around her cup. She was nervous.
Good.
"I've been thinking," I said. "A lot." "Me too." And I exhaled, gripping the mug tighter. "I'm scared." She didn't react, didn't flinch. She just listened. "I'm scared that if I open the door again, I won't recognize myself. That I'll fall into what we were and lose the woman I've been trying to become."
You won't, she said.
"You've already become her. I can see it." "But I'm also scared," I continued, voice cracking, "that if I keep pushing you away, I'll wake up one day and realize I lost the only thing that ever really made me feel seen." Her eyes softened. She reached across the table, slow, giving me every chance to pull back. But I didn't. Her hand found mine, warm and steady. "You never stopped being seen, Olivia," she said. "Even when I couldn't touch you. Even when I was thousands of miles away, watching from the edge of your world.
I saw you.
Every version. Every phase. Every ache. You were the light I never deserved." "Stop," I said, blinking fast. "Don't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because I'll believe you." "Then believe me," she whispered. "Because this time, I won't vanish. I'll stay until you tell me to go." I looked at her for a long moment. Let myself feel it, the weight of her honesty, the gentleness in her restraint, the desperation behind her patience. I slid my hand farther into hers. She squeezed gently. No urgency, no pressure, just presence. "I don't know what we're doing," I admitted. "Me neither. And I don't want to rush into anything. Not again. I won't let you." I took a deep breath. "But I'd like to see where this goes. One step at a time." Her smile came slowly, like it hurt a little, like she didn't quite believe it was real. "Okay." We sat there for a while, fingers laced loosely on the table, cups going cold, words hanging between us like threads waiting to be tied. This wasn't a grand moment. No fireworks. No cinematic declarations. But it was real.
Solid. Ours.
And maybe that was enough.
For now.
There was a quiet kind of becoming between us. Not the explosive, reckless kind of love we used to chase like fire, but something slower. Something real. We weren't falling anymore. We were building. There were no declarations, no labels. Just space, warm, intentional, shared space. We started meeting after work. Sometimes just for a walk, other times for a drink, or a late dinner in a dim corner of a quiet place. The world didn't know, not really, but that wasn't the point anymore. We weren't hiding. We were protecting something still too new to survive scrutiny. She would text me in the middle of the day. "You'd hate this meeting. I just thought about how you used to doodle in your notebook when things got boring." Or, "Pass by that Italian place you love. Want to go tomorrow?" I'd catch myself smiling more, breathing easier. But it was the nights that stayed with me. One evening, she sent me a photo, just the sky outside her window. Soft gray, rain misting the glass. The message read, "I wish you were here." I didn't even think before I replied, "Come over."
And she did.
My apartment wasn't big. Just a one-bedroom tucked away in a quiet building on the east side. But it was mine. Mine in the way nothing else had been since her. I opened the door to find her standing there with wine in one hand, a bag of groceries in the other. "You cook now?" I teased. "I try," she said, brushing past me. "Don't get your hopes up." I closed the door, locking it behind her. The sound felt final. Or maybe it felt like a beginning. She moved through the kitchen like she belonged there. I watched her from the counter, arms folded, heart pounding in a rhythm, I hadn't felt in years. She looked softer in the dim light. Less CEO, more woman. More mine. You're staring, she said without turning. You're in my kitchen, I replied. I'm allowed. She glanced at me over her shoulder, that small smile tugging at her lips. You always stared at me like that, even when you were mad. Especially when I was mad, I muttered. We laughed. It was easy, effortless. We chopped vegetables. She burned the garlic. I teased her for it. She smeared a streak of sauce on my cheek. I retaliated with flour on her nose. It felt stupid. It felt perfect. After dinner, we ended up on the couch, sitting close, but not touching. The wine sat open on the table, forgotten. She leaned back, one arm draped across the back of the couch, her fingers inches from my shoulder. We were talking about something mundane, office gossip, maybe, when I stopped hearing her words. I was too focused on her mouth. The way it moved. The way it trembled when she smiled. The way it used to taste. She noticed. Of course she did. Elena always noticed. Her voice trailed off. Her gaze dropped to my lips. And still she didn't move. Why aren't you kissing me? Asked my voice low. Her throat worked as she swallowed. Because I said I wouldn't until you asked. What if I'm asking now? Her hand moved slowly, carefully, until it rested on my knee. Then say it. I leaned in, my forehead brushing hers. We had been here once before. Years ago. At the edge of something dangerous. Something true. Kiss me, Elena.
She didn't hesitate.
Her mouth found mine with a hunger that stole my breath. It wasn't sweet. It wasn't slow. It was desperate and deep and full of everything we hadn't said for 2 years. Her hands slid into my hair. Mine gripped her shirt like I was afraid she'd vanish again. We moved together without thinking, without speaking, mouths pressed tight, breath stolen between gasps and the softest, most painful sound I'd ever heard, the sound of her whispering my name like it was a prayer. We didn't rush. We didn't tear through each other like we used to. This was different. This was reverent. Her fingers skimmed the edge of my jaw, down my neck, over my collarbone like she was relearning a language she thought she'd forgotten. I touched her like I was afraid to wake up. Are you sure? She asked, voice ragged against my skin. I pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. I've never been more sure. And that was it. The last hesitation. The last barrier. We moved together like we never stopped. Like our bodies remembered something our minds had been too afraid to face. We didn't say, I love you. We didn't have to. It was in every touch, every sigh, every second of silence where the world disappeared and there was only us. When we finally slowed, tangled in my sheets, skin flushed and breath uneven, she reached for my hand. Fingers intertwined. No tension. No fear. Just warmth. Just here. That felt like a beginning, she whispered. It was, I said. But this time we take our time. She nodded, forehead against mine. And I knew, without question, that this wasn't the end of something broken. It was the start of something we were finally ready to build. Together. The morning light touched her skin like it knew her. Soft, golden, reverent. I woke to the weight of her arm across my waist, her breath warm against the back of my neck, her body curled around mine like we'd never been apart. It should have felt surreal, waking next to her again after everything. But it didn't. It felt like breathing, like something ancient and true had returned to its rightful place. I didn't move for a long time. I just lay there, feeling her heartbeat against my spine, listening to the quiet hum of the city outside my window. Eventually she stirred. Her hand slid up my side, her lips grazing my shoulder in the softest, sleepiest kiss. Morning, she murmured. Hey, I whispered back. We didn't say anything else for a while. There was no rush, no urgency, just warmth, just the steady rhythm of two people remembering what it felt like to belong. When we finally got out of bed, it was quiet in a different way. She made coffee. I sat at the table, legs tucked under me, watching her move through my kitchen like she'd done it 100 times. You're staring again, she said, handing me a mug. Can you blame me? She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. There was something else there now. A shadow behind the softness. I saw it. She did too. And we didn't pretend it wasn't there. At work, we were careful, professional, but the tension between us had shifted. It wasn't the sharp, painful pull of longing anymore. It was the hum of something remembered, something real. Every glance across the boardroom, every brush of her hand near mine when we passed each other in the hallway, every low-spoken good morning felt like a thread pulling tighter. The others didn't seem to notice. Or maybe they did, and just chose not to speak it aloud. Either way, we moved carefully. But it wasn't easy. Not when I could still feel her mouth on mine every time I closed my eyes. That night she texted, "Can we talk?" No expectations. I need to see you. I told her to come. When she arrived, she didn't kiss me, didn't even reach for me. She sat on the edge of the couch, elbows on her knees, like she was preparing to say something that might shatter us all over again. "I need to tell you something," she said. I sat beside her, close but not touching. "Okay." She took a deep breath. "After I left, there wasn't a single day I didn't think about you. About what I'd done. I tried to justify it. Tell myself it was the right thing. That disappearing was mercy. But it wasn't. It was cowardice. I made you carry the weight of my absence while I hid behind my illness." Her voice cracked, and I hated myself for that. I reached out, placed my hand over hers. She gripped it tightly. "I was angry," I said. "So angry. But the part that hurt the most wasn't that you left. It was that I didn't get to choose. I didn't get to fight for you. And you didn't let me." "I'm letting you now," she said. "If you still want to." "I do," I said, without hesitation. "But I need honesty. Always." "Then here's the truth." She turned to face me. "I want this. I want you. All of you. I don't care how long it takes. I'll learn every step. But I don't want to hide anymore." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "I want to tell the board," she said. "About us. Before someone else does. I want it to come from me. Not from rumors. Not from whispers. If I have to step back or deal with fallout, I will. But I won't pretend I don't love you." The words hit me like a wave. I hadn't expected them.
Not now.
Not like this. "Elena, I'm not asking you to decide now. I just needed you to know that I'm not afraid anymore. Of them. Of this. Of you." I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who had once vanished without a word, now offering me everything she had, consequences and all. "That's a big step," I said. "Yes," she whispered. "But I'll only take it if you're beside me." Silence stretched between us, heavy with possibilities. I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. Not because I didn't want her, God, I did, but because I knew what came with this. Visibility, judgment, risk. And yet, her eyes didn't waver. Her hand didn't tremble. She meant it. She was ready to fight for this. And maybe so was I. "Let me think about it," I said. "Of course. But I'm not walking away." Her lips parted, a soft exhale escaping her. I leaned in, pressed a kiss to her temple. "Not this time." I didn't go to the board meeting. I didn't need to. Elena had told me what she was going to do, and I believed her. I didn't need to sit in that room and watch it happen. I needed to breathe. I needed to trust that, this time, she would show up. So I stayed in my office, the door closed, the blinds down, heart beating like a warning bell against my ribs. I stared at the clock, at my phone, at the blinking cursor of an email I couldn't finish. When the meeting ended, I didn't hear anything. No messages. No footsteps down the hall. Just silence.
But it didn't last.
By late afternoon, the whispers had started. Not cruel, not loud, but present. "Did you hear?" she told them. "Can you believe it?" I passed 2 interns near the elevator, their voices dropping the moment I turned the corner. I didn't stop walking. I didn't flinch, but I felt the eyes on me. The shift in energy. The subtle way people measured their words around me now. Still, no one said my name. No one knew, not officially. Elena hadn't revealed it. And yet they knew, or thought they did. I'd braced for this, for the way the air would change. What I hadn't expected was the other side of it, the quiet nods from people I barely spoke to. The email from a senior manager that simply read, "Proud of leadership that leads with honesty." The sticky note on my desk, and signed, that said, "You're braver than you think." I hadn't done anything, and yet, somehow I felt seen. Exposed, yes, but also respected. When I got home that night, she was already there. She'd used the key I'd given her the week before, a small, quiet gesture we hadn't spoken much about, but neither of us had questioned. She was barefoot, sitting on my couch, hair pulled back, wearing an oversized sweater I knew she'd taken from my closet. She looked up the moment I walked in, and for a second, we didn't say anything. Then I crossed the room and kissed her. Not out of lust, not out of habit, but out of something deeper. Something like pride. Something like gratitude. "You did it," I whispered against her lips. "I told them," she said, her hands sliding into my hair. "I thought I'd be terrified. But I wasn't. Not once." "Why?" "Because I knew you'd be on the other side of it." We held each other for a long time. No rush. No performance. Just bodies relearning safety. That night, we didn't need to talk. We didn't need to fill the space. We moved slowly, fingers trailing over skin like reverent brushstrokes, mouths rediscovering softness, breath sinking in a rhythm neither of us needed to control. It wasn't a reclaiming. It wasn't about urgency. It was surrender. Every touch said, "I see you now." Every kiss said, "I forgive us." When she was inside me, eyes locked on mine, neither of us looked away. And when I came undone beneath her hands, I wasn't afraid of falling anymore. Because she fell with me. We lay tangled in silence after, her head resting on my chest, my fingers tracing circles along her shoulder. "I think I'm finally starting to believe this is real," she said. "It is," I murmured. "But it's also fragile. We have to protect it. We will." We drifted into sleep wrapped around each other, for once not haunted by ghosts. But peace, like all beautiful things, has sharp edges. It was just after dawn when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I groaned, reaching for it without opening my eyes. One notification. Unknown number. "I know who you are, Olivia. And soon everyone else will too." My heart stopped. I sat up, the bedsheets falling around my waist. Elena stirred beside me. "What's wrong?" I showed her the message. She read it, then looked at me with eyes that darkened instantly. "Someone knows," I said. "They're going to publish it." Her jaw tightened. "Let them." "Elena, no. I meant what I said. I'm not hiding you. And we're not running." I wanted to believe her. I needed to. But I also knew what exposure like this could do, not just to her career, but to me. To us. "They'll dig," I whispered. "Into our past. Into everything. Then we face it. Together." But deep down, I knew this wasn't going to be like the whispers. This wasn't quiet. This was the beginning of a storm. It hit the internet before I'd even had my first sip of coffee. The headline was brutal, sharp, tabloid slick, designed to wound. CEO Elena Hart involved in secret relationship with employee, power, passion, and silence in the workplace. Below it, a photo of me, not recent, not professional, just me, walking down the street, coffee in hand, headphones in, candid, taken without permission. Underneath it, my full name, my department, my position, and with it a storm. I stared at the screen in stunned silence, the words blurring together, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. My phone buzzed with texts. Colleagues, friends, strangers. People asking if it was true, people pretending to be concerned, but clearly just looking for a reaction. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My hands were shaking. By the time I got to work, the building felt different. Like the walls had absorbed the news. Like the lights were harsher. Like the air was thinner. I walked through the lobby and felt the stares. The murmurs. The silence. Worse than judgment was the shift, the way people who used to say good morning now barely looked at me. The way others offered hollow smiles, too polite to be honest. I sat at my desk, stared at my monitor, and tried to breathe. At 10:07, Elena sent a message. My office.
Now.
I went. The doors were already open. She was pacing, furious. When she saw me, her expression softened, but not by much. They crossed a line, she said. Publishing your name? Your photo? That's harassment. It's done, I said quietly. What now? Now, she replied. We don't let them define us. At noon, she called for an internal meeting. Every department head. HR, legal, communications, and me. She stood at the front of the room, tall, calm, undeniable, and told the truth. Yes, she said, I'm in a relationship. Yes, it began after I returned to the company. Yes, it is consensual. Yes, it is real. And no, I will not apologize for it. She didn't say my name at first, but then she looked straight at me, and everything changed. Her name is Olivia Reed. She is brilliant and kind, and more patient than I deserve. And if anyone in this room thinks they have the right to diminish her value because of who she loves, you are free to leave this company right now. The room was silent. No one moved. I have submitted my relationship disclosure form as required. HR has it on file. This is not a scandal. This is not a secret. This is mine. When it ended, she didn't speak to me. She just looked at me like she'd handed me something fragile and hoped I wouldn't drop it. I went home early. I didn't say a word to anyone. I took the elevator up to my apartment, walked inside, and collapsed onto the floor. Not from exhaustion. Not from fear. From the weight. The sheer weight of being so visible. So known. So exposed. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, legs folded beneath me, staring at the quiet walls of the life I had built and wondering if I still owned any of it. I didn't hear the door open, but I felt her. She sat beside me slowly, not touching, not speaking, just being. After a long while, she reached for my hand. I let her take it. I'm sorry, she whispered. Not for loving you. Never for that. But for what this world does to women who dare to love each other without shame. I swallowed hard, my throat burning. I feel like I've lost something. You haven't. But I didn't get to choose. Again. Someone else chose for me. Her fingers tightened around mine. If you want me to walk away from all of this, the company, the title, the attention, I will. I will leave it all if it means protecting you. I looked at her then, really looked at her. Her face open. Her eyes full of something raw and terrifying. Sincerity. I don't want you to run, I said. Not again. And I'm not going to run either. I need time. I need to find my footing. Take it, she said. Take all of it. I leaned into her. For the first time that day. Her arms wrapped around me, pulling me close, and I let myself breathe. Just breathe. And then I cried. Not because I was broken, but because I finally didn't have to be. The fire didn't die out. If anything, it grew, not in chaos, but in reach. The tabloids continued to circle, publishing clickbait headlines and recycled photos, dragging out every morsel of speculation they could find. But then, something shifted. Somewhere in the noise, a softer voice broke through. A well-known columnist published a piece titled, "What if this is just love?" It didn't defend the company or spin PR. It didn't sanitize or frame us as victims. It just asked the question, what if two women fell in love, lost each other, and then found their way back? What if that was the story? After that, others followed. The headline softened. Celebrities began quietly liking tweets in support. A famous author posted, "Let them love in peace." My inbox flooded. Some of it hateful, sure, but a surprising amount full of solidarity. Strangers wrote to me. Coworkers who'd avoided me last week now stopped by to ask how I was holding up. The weight hadn't vanished, but it had shifted. It wasn't crushing me anymore. It was just there. And I was learning how to carry it. At work, I started walking taller. I didn't pretend the tension wasn't there. I just didn't let it define me. Elena was the same, calm, composed, but quieter. Like she was saving her energy for me. At home, we returned to a rhythm. Late nights, dinners in sweatpants, music playing softly while we leaned into each other on the couch. There was peace. There was quiet joy. But there was also something else. Something unresolved. It lingered in the space between touches. In the way my fingers sometimes paused against her skin. In the hesitation I couldn't name. One night, we ate dinner in near silence. Nothing was wrong, but I felt it. That pull inside me. That wound. I set my fork down. Can I ask you something? She looked up instantly. Anything. I met her eyes. What if I told you I forgave you, but I'm still afraid you'll leave again? She didn't flinch. She didn't shrink. Then I'd say that's fair. I want to believe you'll stay.
Then don't force it, she said.
Let it come naturally. And I'll be here, proving it, every single day. There was something in her voice, a steadiness, an ache, that made my chest tighten. She stood slowly, walked to the bookshelf, and pulled out a thin black journal I didn't recognize. What's that? I asked. She handed it to me without speaking. Read page 34, she said. I opened it. The pages were raw, handwritten, some messy, others careful. I turned until I reached the one she'd marked. December 19th. I saw her in a dream last night. She was laughing. Not at me. Not with me. Just free. Her smile looked like summer. Her hair was longer. She was wearing the sweater I always stole. I think I started crying in the dream because when I woke up, my face was wet. I wonder if she hates me now. I hope she does.
It would be easier that way.
I hope she's moved on. I hope she hasn't. God, I just want to hear her voice again. I don't know if I'll survive this. But if I do, if I make it out of this darkness, I will find her. I will earn my way back. I'll remind her of who we were before the world broke me. I stopped reading. My throat burned. I couldn't speak. I wrote that during one of the worst nights, she said softly. I didn't know if I'd make it, but I held on to one thing, the thought of you. Why are you showing me this now? Because you deserve to know I never forgot you. Even when my body betrayed me. Even when I was angry and bitter and afraid. I never stopped loving you. And I never will. I reached for her hand. She let me take it. I pulled her down beside me on the couch and lay back, resting my head in her lap. She stroked my hair, saying nothing, just breathing with me, holding space. I stared at the ceiling, my heart quiet for the first time in what felt like years. I'm ready, I whispered. She stilled. For what? For all of it. For the world. For whatever comes next. I looked up at her. I'm not afraid anymore. Her smile was small, beautiful, like she'd been waiting to hear those words and didn't trust that they were real. But they were. They were mine. And I meant every single one. It started with a toothbrush, a small, ordinary object, white and blue, resting quietly in the ceramic cup beside mine. I hadn't asked her to leave it there. She hadn't made a big deal about it. But one morning I walked into the bathroom, still half asleep, and there it was. And I smiled. Because that's how we were rebuilding now, with soft edges. No grand declarations, just presence. A toothbrush. A sweater in my closet that wasn't mine. A mug she favored, always left on the counter. One night, as we folded laundry, hers and mine mixed together like we'd never stopped, she looked at me and said, "Do you ever think about leaving the city?" I looked up. Why? Not to run. Not to hide. Just to breathe. Sometimes. Would you go with me? Would you ask me to? She smiled. Maybe. But it wasn't about the city. Not really. It was about building something, choosing it every day. We talked about the future with a softness we never allowed ourselves before. Not just the big things, apartments, travel, long-term plans, but the small ones. Morning routines. What color the curtains should be. Who got up first on weekends. We weren't dreaming anymore. We were designing. And for a while that was enough. Until the invitation arrived. The company's annual leadership summit. Press, investors, department heads, the biggest audience Elena would face since everything went public. She was the keynote speaker. They want me to keep the speech neutral, she told me one night, her voice flat as she leaned against my kitchen counter. No mention of controversies. No personal references. It's okay, I said. You don't have to. I want to. Elena, she pushed off the counter and crossed the room until she was in front of me. You don't have to be in the spotlight again. I know what it cost you. But if I have a chance to stand in front of everyone and show them that I'm proud of the life I've built, including you, why shouldn't I take it? Because they don't deserve that part of you. Maybe. But you do.
You deserve to be seen.
Fully. Not just in shadows. I didn't answer. I just nodded. The day of the summit, I wore black. Simple.
Clean.
I sat near the back of the room, surrounded by people in suits and tension. The stage glowed in soft blue light. Elena walked up slowly, in heels, in power, in truth. She stood before the podium and paused, letting silence do its work. Then she spoke. When I was 27, I made my first million. When I was 30, I made my first executive decision that cost people their jobs. When I was 33, I lost everything, my health, my identity, the person I loved. And when I came back, I rebuilt. Brick by brick, win by win. But something was still missing. The room was still. I've spent years learning how to lead, how to build companies, how to survive. But none of it means anything if I can't do it as myself. Fully. She looked out across the crowd. I'm in a relationship with someone in this room. Someone many of you whispered about, speculated over. Someone who didn't ask for attention but received it anyway. Her name is Olivia Reed. My breath caught. She is one of the most brilliant women I've ever known. And I nearly lost her because I thought silence was safer. I won't make that mistake again. I felt every eye shift toward me. I kept my chin high. This isn't about scandal. It's about truth. About building companies and lives with transparency, integrity, and courage. That's the kind of leadership I believe in. And if that means losing support, so be it. I'd rather lose a title than lose myself. A long pause. Then applause. Not immediate. Not thunderous. But real. Earned. When she stepped off the stage, she didn't go to the executives or the press. She walked straight to me. The room watched. She didn't care. She stopped in front of me, her voice soft enough only I could hear.
Come with me, she said.
Where? Into the rest of our lives. No hiding. No pauses. Just us. I stood. Yes. I didn't hesitate. I didn't look back. I took her hand. And for the first time since the world tried to tear us apart, we walked forward. Together. The city felt different from the other side of healing. Softer somehow. Less like a battlefield, and more like a backdrop. We hadn't escaped. We'd rebuilt. Together. The apartment we moved into wasn't extravagant. It wasn't perched on some skyline or shielded behind marble and glass. It was sunlit, quiet, tucked away on a quiet block where birds were louder than traffic, where the morning light reached our faces before the alarm did. Our toothbrushes stood side by side. Our clothes shared the same dresser. There were shoes by the door that belonged to both of us. And there was peace. A real, tangible peace. Some days were loud. Some weren't. There were emails and meetings and headlines and contracts. But there was also coffee in bed. And dancing barefoot in the kitchen to old playlists we'd both forgotten. She called me home once, half asleep, her head resting on my stomach. I didn't say anything then. But I haven't stopped thinking about it since. I'd come home too. Months passed. We stopped counting. Life began to feel like living again. I led my own team now, not under Elena's wing, not behind her shadow. Mine. I spoke up more. I held meetings. I made decisions. I still got nervous, but now I had someone who kissed my wrist before I left for work and whispered, "You've got this." And somehow I did. Elena changed too. She laughed more. Not the restrained, curated smile for boardrooms, but the real kind. The kind that tilted her head back and reached her eyes. She still worked too much. Still had moments where she forgot to eat, forgot to breathe. But now, when I reminded her, she listened. She let me care for her. And she cared right back. One Friday, we escaped the city. Just a long weekend. A borrowed cabin tucked between trees that looked like they belonged in another world. We brought books, food, sweaters too big for either of us. The air was cooler. Time slowed. We cooked dinner together the first night, messy, chaotic, with wine and laughter and burnt garlic again. Some traditions never die. Later, we danced. No music. Just a song one of us hummed, out of tune and perfect. I rested my cheek against her shoulder, her hands on my waist. Do you remember the first time we danced like this? I asked. Of course. You were wearing red. You said I looked dangerous. You were. You still think I am? She smiled. Completely. The next morning, we took a walk. The trees were thick around us, golden leaves tumbling in slow spirals. We didn't speak much. Just walked. She held my hand like it was second nature, like it had always been. At some point, she stopped. I turned to her, eyebrows raised. She reached into her jacket pocket, pulled something out, small, simple. A ring. Not flashy. No diamonds. Just a band, smooth, silver, timeless. Don't panic, she said quickly, seeing my eyes widen. This isn't a proposal. Not officially. I let out a breath, laughed a little. Then what is it? It's a promise. She looked at me like she did the day she first came back, like I was everything. Will you stay? With me. For good. Not through headlines or jobs or apartments.
Just through life.
All of it. I didn't hesitate. I didn't need to. Yes, I said. Her eyes closed like she'd been holding her breath for months. I reached for her, pulling her into the softest kiss, surrounded by silence and leaves and everything we'd fought to keep. We didn't go back inside right away. We stayed out there, long after the sun dipped below the trees. Later that night, we sat on the wooden floor of the cabin's porch, wrapped in one oversized blanket, sharing a bottle of wine and watching the sky fade into stars. She leaned into me. I rested my head on hers. You ever think we'd make it here? She asked. Not until we did. Are you happy? I didn't even have to think. Completely. She kissed my temple, her voice barely a breath. Me too. The world didn't stop spinning. Deadlines waited. Life would keep moving. But for the first time, we weren't chasing it. We weren't running from the past or holding our breath for the future. We were living. Side by side. No hiding.